Good evening, everyone. We just want to let you know that we have a line of people still entering the sanctuary. We're going to start in about 10 minutes, and we thank you for your patience. Thank you. thank God for the rhythm of the drums that remind us of the rhythm of life with its beginnings and endings. Grace and peace and welcome, beloveds, to the Riverside Church here in the city of New York. I am Adrienne Thorne, Riverside's 8th senior minister, and it is our honor and our delight to host this celebration of the extraordinary life of Harry Belafonte, even as we have been holding his family and loved ones in our prayers over these many months since his passing. Mr. B, as he was affectionately known by the staff here at Riverside, who welcomed him over the years, was an icon of stage, screen, and street, using his sizable platform and power to push for the civil rights of Black folks. And we thank God for his clarity of vision, his courage, his creativity, and his commitment. We trust that the good he has done in this life will continue to heal the current generation and the generations yet to come. With the past, present, and future in mind, please join me and Mr. Belafonte's family in acknowledging the original stewards of this land that we call Harlem. The Wequassgeek people raised corn and tobacco here and called their land Quinnahung, or Planting Neck. The Wequassgeek were a subset of the Wapani. Therefore, we recognize this united territory and the sacred ground upon which we sit and stand. Today's Broadway follows one of the original trails of the Wequassgeek people, so it is even more fitting that in their honor and in honor of Mr. Belafonte, that we now call the ancestors in to guide us in this time of celebration. Ashe and amen.
Brothers and sisters, and at Harry's homegoing, that's a big word. That includes all of us. We, despite our variations in pigmentation, hairstyle, where we came from and where we are going, for Harry to say brothers and sisters meant all of us. Therefore, I want to join Pastor Thorne in welcoming you here tonight, not as brothers and sisters alone, but one family. Say one family. I am honored to have the opportunity to say a word for my dear, beloved brother. Harry Belafonte was not a saint, but God took his life and also his song and said, I'm going to take Harry's song and make it to be a revelation of my song. I'll tell you why in just a moment. But tonight, as we gather, we do not gather in mourning. It's indelicate to do so for Harry, because when you thought he was down, turn around and here he goes again. And so we do not think of him as gone as much as going on. Where? In Harry's case, you can't tell where he's going. That is to say, one thing you can be sure of, he is going for love, he is going for justice, he is going for community. Now let me tell you, if he were alive, I would consult with members of the family to see if I could get Harry to consider a song that I wrote 20 years ago when I was the senior ministry emeritus here at the Riverside Church. I think he would have sung this song. I made heaven so happy today. He put a little receiving God's love and giving it away. When I looked up, heaven smiled at me. Now I'm so happy, can't you see? Sharing makes us happy, makes heaven happy too. Sharing lifts your spirit and brings the best from you. Sharing sends a ray of hope to places needing care. Sharing says we're neighbors, God's children everywhere. I'm happy, look at me, I'm happy, can't you see? Sharing makes me happy, makes heaven happy too. I'm happy, look at me, I'm happy, can't you see? Let me share my happy, loving smile with you. Harry might would have sung that song. But now let me tell you why God took. Is this Harlem? Riverside Church? Well, it all began here, so why don't we just continue his journey here? When Harry was born, he was born into poverty. He was born into periodic conflict in family, amongst friends, in the culture, in the clan in the Southlands. But he always managed, no matter when he dipped low. Watch out, here come Harry again. And I say to you tonight, the reason God says Harry's song reveals my song. God is love. Harry sang about love. God was for freedom and justice. Harry was fiercely about that work all his life. God was about power. Power to bring about change. Harry was determined to do it. And another thing about him, God believed in building community and is at work even now, recruiting you and me to help replace Harry. Who in this house can replace Harry with the commitment to justice, concern for workers, concern for those who had down on their luck but lifted by God's grace? Who in here tonight, memorializing his life, will replace him? And who will replace his song of love? Love, agape love of God. And by the way, who here tonight will replace Harry's generosity? He helped Dr. King in the darkest hours. He went down to Selma and offered hope to despised and dispirited people. Who here tonight will step up to the plate and say, I'll be a replacement. I'll be on the dream team for justice, for generosity, and for peace. And now I want to ask one last question and then I'm through. Who is it that has a song to add to Harry's song? I ask you in honor of Harry Belafonte. Those who can, please stand and repeat these words after me. Stand. The first sermon I preached here had these words. Repeat these words. There's a song inside of me. I can hardly wait to see what it is I have to say, or the music I will play. It's been so long in coming. First a thought and then some humming. But before I find my key, something stifles it in me. What keeps my song from being sung? Past hurts, deep fears, a timid tongue. What makes my freedom come so hard? A self-made live-in prison guard. Meanwhile, the song still groans in me. I can't be me until my song is set free. Debating and hesitating, my song could die. The Spirit said to me, release your song. Said the Spirit to me, be free. Be free. It's Jubilee. Cast out each fearsome song patrol. Proclaim deliverance to your soul. You may be seated while I complete it. Thank God my song has been set free and the rhythm and the words are right for me. I'm finally ready to sing out song, and Harry says, this is my song. Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Hello. What about that song the Reverend was just talking about? Come on, y'all. We are Sweet Honey in the Rock. And I have to say, over these past 50 years that we have been singing and spreading our mission and our music, Mr. B was always in our corner. He came to see about us. He let us come see about him at the festivals and traveled with Sweet Honey in the Rock. We are so honored, humbled, and blessed to be here with all of you today to uplift, to bring the ancestors into the room. We offer this song. It is called Breath by Barago Joe, set to music by Dr. Isai Maria Barnwell. It is the ancestors' breath in the voice of the waters.
To things and to be. Listen more often to things and to be. To the ancestor breath when the fire roars voice of the water. Those who have died and never left, the dead are not under the earth. They are in the rustling trees, they are in the growing woods, they are in the crying grass, they are in the moaning rocks. The dead are not under the earth. So listen more often to things and to beings. Listen more often to things and to beings. 'Tis the ancestors' breath when the fire's voice is heard. 'Tis the ancestors' breath in the voice of the water. Those who have died have never left. The dead have a pact with the living. They are in the woman's breast, they are in the wayward child, they are with us in the home, they are with us in this ground. The dead have a pact with the living. So listen more often to things and to beings. Listen more often to things and to beings. 'Tis the ancestors' breath when the fire's voice is heard. 'Tis the ancestors' breath in the voice of the water. Listen more often to things than to things. Listen more often than to things. 'Tis the ancestors' when the fire's voice is heard. 'Tis the ancestors' in the voice of the water. In the heart of the water.
Thomas William Maillard. Yvonne Sutherland.
Martin Luther King Jr. Prentice Robinson.
Aretha Franklin. Harry Belafonte.
Mr. B.
Mr. B.
Mr.
I was born in Harlem, and at the time of my birth, my father abandoned my mother, who worked as a domestic. She sent my brother and myself to live with relatives in Jamaica. I would go on occasion with my family taking their goods to market, and I remembered how grueling the work was. Almost all the songs that I later came to sing were songs that I'd heard among the peasants and among the peoples of my family at that time.
Did I lie down me wrong, go home?
Since I was a child, thanks to my mother, I've been involved in the movement. And she willed me into a life of care and taking notice. And I was the most rewarded person on the face of the earth to have had all those lives walk through my space. Some of the most courageous social activists and thinkers of our time. They were my mentors, my inspiration. Through them, I understood America's greatness. My mother made me understand that I should never, ever awaken in a day where there wasn't something in our agenda that would help set the course for the undermining of injustice.
Swing that hammer, swing that hammer, swing it higher above your head, making little ones out of big ones. Hammer kill you, almost did. If I ever leave this chain gang, I'm a-coming once more. Mama, do not scorn me, do not turn me from your door. Swing it high, boy, swing it low, boy. Swing that hammer above your head. Swing it high, boys. Swing it low, boy. Hammer kill you, almost did. When I left old dusty Georgie, all I had was one thin dime. Well, I'm back in dear old Georgie, and I got to serve this time. Swing it high, boys. Swing it low, boys. Swing that hammer till you did. Swing it high, boys. Swing it low, boys. Swing that hammer till you did. Mama, 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 ain't you ashamed of your dear son? Ain't you sorry that you bore me? When you see what I done. Swing it high, boys. Swing it low, boys. Look here, ma, what I done. Swing it high, boys. Swing it low,
As events unfolded and things escalated in the civil rights movement, I was charged with the responsibility of bringing young people to the South to instruct and to guide black people in the process of voting.
What is developing in the state of Mississippi is somewhat of a police state. Outright violent, facet, totalitarian conditions exist in this state. And we are very much concerned about the whereabouts the 3 workers in the summer project.
I influenced those 3 kids because I was part of what recruited them to come south. Has forever been on my mind.
3 days after they discovered the bodies of Schwerner, Cheney, and Goodman, Harry was asked to take money into Mississippi.
When I first got called about coming down and bringing money, I called Sidney and I said to him, listen, what you doing this weekend? And he says, nothing, man, I'm free. And I said, well, I got something I got to do, and I'd like you to go with me. And I said, I got to go to Greenwood, Mississippi. And he says, listen, it's okay, I'm going with you. But after we do this, I want to tell you something. Never, ever call me again.
He said to me that he was going to speak with Robert Kennedy to let him know that we would be coming down. I mean, we're 2 fairly well-known people, and we might be targets.
Trust me, man, it's going to be all right. I talked to Burke Marshall, talked to the Justice Department, to have marshals. So we get out. We left from Newark. And from Newark, we went into Jackson. And we got on this little plane. And when we landed in Greenwood, it was empty. And all we saw was one black man in the whole airport pushing a broom, cleaning up the place. And I'll never forget, Sidney looked at him, he looked around a little longer, and he said, that don't look like no FBI.
That ain't no FBI.
That ain't one of us in disguise. We was all these marshals. When we got in to the cars and started up, all of a sudden these headlights went on, and I turned to Sidney and said, there's your protection. Willie Blue said, Marshall's my ass. He said, that's the Klan.
We knew they were gonna try something, and we figured that they wasn't gonna do it inside the airport where too many people would see.
The front car was a pickup truck. And I'll never forget, the pickup truck had a big 2x4 block of wood strapped to the bumper. And as they came up behind the second car, they kept ramming it.
And that was my position on it, was he gonna have to kill me before they get around me. Ain't nobody coming up beside me. That's not in the equation. I had made up my mind on that one.
And what happened is a bunch of cars came out of Greenwood with SNCC volunteers and other people in, and they came barreling down the highway and they met up with us. And then they all got into like the cavalcade and drove into Greenwood.
To me, that was our greatest moment. To me, I knew we had arrived. There wasn't nobody finna harm you guys. It would have been a war.
When we got to Greenwood and gave the money and everything else, they decided to put us up in this little house. And outside, one of the people was sitting there with a shotgun.
Harry, he stayed in this house with the family in the Delta. It was so dangerous. The house had been fired on. But he wanted to identify, not just with us, but with the local people. But he also wanted to bring us a sense of hope that we're with you. And I will never, ever forget that.
I met Harry Belafonte in 1961. I was coordinator of the Freedom Ride from Nashville, Tennessee. Pauline Knight was one of the Freedom Riders, and before she got on the bus, she told me, be sure to contact Harry Belafonte. He might be able to help. And she had read that he was into civil rights, so I called him, and he said he would help. Among many things, he raised a lot of money for the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, otherwise known as SNCC. Harry was very interested in the work of the organization, as well as our involvement with many communities where we had projects. So several times he invited several of us from SNCC to come to where he was performing. His performances were usually in the evening, so for 2 or 3 days at a time during the day, we would have meetings where we would discuss what was going on in the South. Well, those meetings were very difficult for me. I'd be sitting in the meeting, and I'd start thinking, I'm sitting 5 feet away from Harry Belafonte as he is so good looking. And I'd be thinking that for a while, and then I'd realize I had missed what was going on in the meeting. So one of those times, Harry excused himself. He left the meeting and he said he'd be back in a few minutes. Well, it was 2 or 3 minutes later, there was a knock on the door. And I was sitting closest to the door, so I opened it and looked right into the face of Sidney Poitier. He asked for Harry, and I said he left, but he said he'd be back in a few minutes. And Sidney said, okay, thank you, and sauntered on down the hallway. Well, I closed the door and was grateful that my weak knees had not completely collapsed and that I was not sitting on the floor. I'll tell you, that close proximity to Harry Belafonte and Sidney Poitier, all inside of 5 minutes, 63 years ago, was too much strain on a young girl's nervous system. Harry Belafonte had integrity. He took principled positions. He had the courage to speak his truth. The world is a better place because he was in it. Harry, we will continue to miss you.
Hi, I am Dr. Clarence B. Jones. Hi, beautiful. If you were fortunate enough to be alive when I first met Harry in 1960, until March 1st, 2003, the date of his transition, and looked up at the sky at midnight, you would have seen millions of stars and noticed a shooting star so bright, its incandescence so powerful in its brightness, that it outshone all other stars in the midnight sky. That star, my friends, was Harry Belafonte. Never, never, ever will you see just a star so bright ever again. Before Paul Robeson died on January 23, 1976, Harry visited him in Philadelphia. Among other things, Harry said, "Paul, I must know, was all that you have gone through really worth it?" Robeson replied, "Although we may not have achieved all the victories we set for ourselves, may not have achieved all the goals we set for ourselves, beyond the victory itself, infinitely more important was the journey." Harry Belafonte's life is an exemplar of a journey we must continue. Thank you.
Okay. That's good. Everybody will see me down the middle. I take directions good. Tell me when I should stop. All the way, keep it going. You real bossy. Good, brother? Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is George Gresham. Don't be embarrassed that you don't recognize it, because almost no one does. But my love of my life is I'm the president of 1199, SEIU, United Healthcare Workers East. First of all, to Pam and the Belafonte family, I just wish you greetings. And I know you've heard it a million times, but thank you so much for sharing him with the rest of the world. Because I don't know anybody that I've gotten to know that inspired me more than Mr. B. When I got to really get to know him, and he started telling me the stories, and I was visiting him, and I said, Mr. B, every forum of justice I've ever heard about or participated in, you were there. You were behind it. You sponsored it. I think that he was an amazing person. I thank you to the family for just giving me the pleasure and honor of speaking of this wonderful man. As we began to talk, I found out that we both went to PS 186 in Harlem. We were talking about places to start up a cultural museum. And I mentioned PS 186, and he said, oh, you went there, so did I. And then he said, of course, at different times. I love this man. I was so glad to hear that we are having this kind of service, because he deserved it. He earned it. And so, y'all didn't come here to hear me. I didn't even come here to hear me. But I think we have one big thing in common, and that is our love for Mr. B.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Aja Monet, and I'm a poet, and honored to be here with you all this evening. For those of us who had the privilege to know, to love, to be known and loved by Mr. B, look at us. We are each connected by the cosmic awe of his devotion to us. What a presence he carried. What a calling and responsibility for us to shepherd. Praise the breath that named you so. And here you were like a flash or fluttering wing, a wind beneath and beside us, all that conspired in the universe to wander you into existence, all that flows through you, flows through us. There is a Harry in every heart seeking art and beauty and justice, and we carry your dimples carefully across our face like buckets of water across earth-colored roads in a calypso song. You are our Deo, a voice that startles our own mouths, our island breeze and the surviving sun adored and cherished, a charm on all our wrists raised in the reckoning of our pains and pleasures, a lifetime of performing in the theater of our chests, echoing drum, riffing on our loves, an ancestral standing ovation. Every show is a ceremonious gathering of what is just and what is possible. There's never a dry eye in the house or an empty seat, because there you are, tender magnitude of meaning, a spirit that resonates and glows in a glance. Thank you for living, for loving, for being a temple, a library of sacred pages and poems, brother of Robeson and King and Dandridge, and a movement made us honest, truth-telling, handsome. Praise the day you were born and the mother who made you possible, all that you have endured to be. Destined, bless your calling, your listening, your now. A dream in this nightmare, fellow gatekeeper of truth. A life-sized devotion in a sentimental mood, the artist's reclamation in the hurt of healing, a folk song crowning us on the veranda of your visions, the poems, the song, the choreography of care, the theater of values, we who emerge, how to be artists, how to craft a purpose at a time when it would seem humanity has failed or is failing. I am reminded of the great radical tradition by which Mr. B has thrusted us toward what it means to be literate in the language of the heart, the artist's assignment, the love that lives for Mr. Belafonte is a love that lives for us as Black people in this terrifying experiment called America. The love that lives for him is the pulsing presence that overcomes and comforts us in the deep joy and sadness. He was love manifest and unmeasurable. He was our moral compass, a library, a visionary. He pushed and encouraged our possibility. He was the horizon of our courage, the beauty and brilliance of many years of sacrifice and perseverance. He was consistent, tried, testament to our greatest living. He was a strategist, a storyteller, an embodiment of values and voices lifted up from the depths and valleys of this country. We lost a magnificent miracle of spirit. We lost more than a man, though he was merely mortal. We lost a true shrine of our most magnificent dreams, a tremendous treasure of our radical revolutionary tradition, the original dream defender. In the truest sense of the declaration, the doing and do's of our does, a song outstretched from the sway of our swag, a forehead kiss from our conjuring, a force to be reckoned with, and a voice who held each of us accountable to that great inspiration called poetry. He was our prayer, our blessing. Harry Belafonte lived a long and obedient life. He rose to his purpose and answered every call from the shadows of this globe. He was solidarity in its fullest expression. Though he lived to old age, it is no less painful or significant, the meaning and the depth of this loss. For as we strategize our way forward, we no longer have the undeniable presence to hug and to hold. I will miss his smile. I will miss the dance in his eyes. I will miss the fingers in his calm tone. There is nothing that could have prepared any of us for the world we were born into, but there are few, very, very, very few, who pave such a rigorous path for which we can follow, and our thirst for justice be quenched. Praise, 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 praise his life, praise his flaws, praise his faithful pursuit of our possibility. Thank you, Mr. B. Thank you. What a life, what a life, what a life, what a life. Living, what a life.
I got awarded by the NAACP, and I said, thank you for the anointing from this organization that's about Black life, and here are my thoughts on the subject. Where are you, all of you? The river of blood that washes the streets of our nation flows mostly from the bodies of our Black children. Where is the raised voice of Black America? Why are we mute? Paul Robes said, artists are the gatekeepers of truth. We are civilization's radical voice. Never in the history of Black America has there ever been such a harvest of truly gifted and powerful artists as we witness today. Yet, our nation hungers for their radical song. Let us not sit back silently. Let us not be charged with patriotic treason. And I will tell you that our kids, those who languish in the prisons of America, are waiting for us to change the system. Thank you.
First and foremost, my loving condolences to the Belafonte family. My name is Carmen Perez Jordan. I am the president and CEO of the Gathering for Justice. Distinguished guests, cherished community, it is with a deep sense of honor and profound emotional weight that I stand before you to pay homage to an incredible man. Harry Belafonte was a pivotal figure in my life, as well as countless others, many of whom are here with us tonight. Our paths crossed in my early 20s, many, many, many moons ago, within the walls of Northern California, in the prisons called Tracy, with my mentor, Nane Alejandres of Barrios Unidos. Initially, I didn't know all that Mr. Belafonte was or his contributions to the civil rights movement. Don't blame me, that was like 20-something years ago. My only reference at the time was that he was behind the captivating voice in the Deo dinner scene from Beetlejuice. Yet, as fate would have it, I would go on to work for him, which at the Gathering for Justice, which I am now honored to lead. Through my journey alongside Mr. B, I came to understand the true extent of his dedication and sacrifice. It was a gradual revelation shared through many conversations and various projects, uncovering the layers of his vast contributions to the fight for equity and liberation. I learned not only about his contributions, but how things came to be. He gave me and everyone I brought into the office the behind the scenes of most social justice movements, the strategies, the tactics they used, leaving behind a blueprint for us to pick up, adding our own flavor to it. He taught me about the transformative power of our voices and how they can serve dual purposes, both as beautiful melodies and as clarion calls for justice. He showed me that the stage is not merely a venue for performance, but a platform for advocacy, where every lyric can reflect the deepest truths of our society. He often said, "Meet people where they're at and champion them to our cause." He also said, "There's a role for everyone in this movement." Yet, it was his belief that each generation is responsible for their own liberation that compelled me to start Justice League NYC with my peers who are here with me tonight. Mr. B and my relationship was a special one that went beyond the conventional mentor-boss relationship. He was a source of endless wisdom, inspiration, and a walking history book. He also had lots of jokes. I know many of you heard them. There's so many stories of our time together that I would love to tell you. I may be able to share the story of us sipping the 70-year-old rum in his office or dancing to hip-hop, but I'll save that for another occasion. The story I want to share is one that reminds me of who he was. He was a unifier. He brought people together. He gathered us for justice. There was a time when my generation was at odds with the older generation, and I remember going back to my office and hearing about this person and that person gatekeeping, and it hurt my heart. I was lost, and I went to Mr. B and I said, "Hey, Mr. B, what's going on? Like, what's up?" And he said, "You know, Carmen, there has always been friction, but you have to learn how to work with one another. You have to learn how to build radical solidarity." And he said something so profound that I always share with my colleagues. He said, "Those who are working towards the liberation of our people are subject to friendship and support. Those who are being divisive are playing the enemy's game." Boy, did that change my life. Today, as we honor Mr. B, let us remember that there's a lane for each one of us. Let us commit to carrying on his legacy and using our voices and actions to continue the fight for justice, because it's not over. In celebrating him, we commemorate a mentor, a visionary, a man whose life was a testament to the power of uniting people of all backgrounds. His legacy challenges us to envision a fight for a world where justice will prevail. To Mr. B, with all my respect, admiration, and love, sir, thank you. There is no one on this earth like you. There is no one who did what you did to the very last day. Your impact is boundless, your legacy everlasting, and your teachings will continue to light the way for many of us. Your spirit lives on in all our work, the lives we touch, and the change we seek in the world. Thank you.
Good evening. We who believe that the future is not bound to replicate oppressive patterns of the past will be forever grateful to Harry Belafonte for his radical vision, his unfaltering commitment, and his eagerness to go wherever he heard the call. I had revered Harry for a very long time before the news reached me in my jail cell that he was a strong supporter of the campaign to free me. I think I saw him then as a star who had decided from that position to embrace social justice causes. But when I met him in 1973 at Paul Robeson's 75th birthday celebration, and he told me that Ben Davis, communist councilman from Harlem, was his mentor, I realized that he was letting me know that the prospect for radical social change was that which gave deep meaning to his life and work on this planet. Had we not had that exchange, I might have been rather surprised when I learned that he and Danny Glover were regularly visiting the brothers in Soledad prison with Nane Alejandres, the formerly incarcerated founder of Barrios Unidos. Mr. B's spirit continues to animate our calls for abolition of carceral structures everywhere. When I was a member of the panel at the Russell Tribunal on Palestine, I was elated, but not really surprised when he and his wife, Pamela, joined us for the last session in New York. Harry's spirit will be animating those who march tomorrow for a permanent ceasefire and an end to the Israeli occupation of Palestine. When Harry told me about his work with Dream Defenders in Florida, I knew I had to connect with this socialist, abolitionist, feminist organization of young people. Mr. B's spirit continues to animate Dream Defenders and all those who lead us on the Freedom Trail. Harry summarized his own life by saying, "The pursuit of justice is all I have ever known." May all of us follow him in that journey.
Greetings. My name is Dr. Divine Pryor, Reverend Dr. Divine Pryor. I love Harry Belafonte. I adored him. I admired him. I respected him. I revered him. All of those things. Every now and again, a force of nature passes through mankind. Every now and then, an energy comes amongst humanity that's able to touch every last one of us. That energy I speak of now is Harry Belafonte. Not only was he an iconic figure, he was almost larger than life. He was a man who set the bar very high. He made no apologies if excellence was the only acceptable thing that he would allow to be manifest. He did not ask permission to tell you what was his truth. That was Harry Belafonte. He was a living example. He was a man who stood for what was right. He was a man who did not dare challenge injustice. He actually walked the walk and talked the talk. They tell me I only have a minute, so in my minute I just want to tell you that you saw that 2013 when he received that Spingard Award at the NAACP Image Award, and he challenged the black church. There were some folks whose feathers got a little ruffled. I know. And so one of the bishops in Brooklyn said, "Don't you know Harry?" I said, "Well, I know Mr. B." "Well, can you get him to come here?" I said, "He ain't scared of y'all." And we organized the bishops and the archbishops and overseers, and they were there in numbers. And they came out, and they were waiting, and he was, respectfully late. But he did get there, and when he walked in, sucked the air right out the room. Because they knew right then that it was on. The confrontation was about to happen. And I'm telling you, he addressed them. He is so superb. He is so eloquent. His use of the English vernacular defies the imagination. He can take words and draw images and pictures. And I got that from him. I got a few beatings, too. Mr. B had no problem setting you straight. And I have it documented, that event. I was telling Gina, thank you for allowing me to speak a moment, that I actually have that footage, and I want to show it. And Gina said, well, we'll work it out. We're gonna show that footage. I want y'all to hear this. Oh, you talking about dressing somebody up. And in fact, he was so good, he almost had us, we was ready to pass the plate when he got finished. But I want to say, in all seriousness, in my last 10 seconds, Mr. B was a man of integrity. He was timeless. How do you stay relevant for 9 decades? Every issue, no matter how they changed and transformed, he emerged and responded. He was able to address audiences of all ages, of all classes. He was an extraordinary being. My name is Dr. Divine Pryor, but I ain't no joke. Peace and blessings.
We come from the fire, living in the fire, go back to the fire, turn the world around.
We come from the fire, go back to the fire, turn the world around.
We come from the fire, living in the fire, go back to the fire, turn the world around. We come from the water, living in the water, go back to the water, turn the world around. We come from the water, living in the water, go back to the water, turn the world around. We come from the water, living in the water, go back to the water, turn the world around. We come from the mountain, living on the mountain, go back to the mountain, turn the world around. We come from the mountain, living on the mountain, go back to the mountain, turn the world around. We come from the mountain, living on the mountain, go back to the mountain, turn the world around. Whoa, oh, so is life. Ah, so is life. Whoa, oh, so is life. Ah, so is life. Do you know who I am? Do I know who you are? See we one another clearly. Do we know who we are? Do you know who I am? Do I know who I am? See we one another clearly. Do we know who you are? Do you know who I am? Do I know who you are? See we one another clearly. Do we know who we are? Whoa, so is life, Abatiwa. So is life. Whoa, so is life, Abatiwa. So is life. Water make the river wash the mountain. Fire make the sunlight turn the world around. Heart is of the river, body is the mountain. Spirit is the sunlight, turn the world around. We are of the spirit, truly of the spirit. Only can the spirit turn the world around. We are of the spirit, truly of the spirit. Only can the spirit turn the world around. Do you know who I am? Do I know who you are? See we one another clearly. Do we know who we are?
Do you know who I am?
Do I know who you are?
See we one another clearly. Do we know who we are?
Do you know who I am? Do I know who you are?
See we one another clearly.
Do we know who we are? Oh, so is life, Abatiwa. So is life. Whoa, so is life, Abatiwa. So is life. Whoa,
so is like a batiwa. So is like, whoa, so is like a batiwa. So is like, whoa, so is like a batiwa. So is like, whoa, so is like a batiwa. So is like.
Well, it's been such a great show that we can hardly bring ourselves to end it. And we all know who we have to thank for that.
The scriptwriter.
No, the guest star party. And so thank you from all of us, Mr. Harry Belafonte.
That's the greatest group of singers I've ever worked with. To the Muppets. Night all.
Thank you. We'll see you next time on The Muppet Show.
This is hard because I feel like I don't want to let Harry down. This is also an extraordinary tribute to obviously a very special person. And it's probably everything he didn't want. But I don't really believe that, and I know you don't either. But it's everything that we did, and it's everything that he deserved, I think. So I'm honored to have been invited to be here tonight. I know if I'd asked Harry to put it into context, he'd probably have said that it's because they needed a white person. But I also know he would have looked out and seen the family here, and probably nothing would have made him more proud, and how important that was to him to see the family together. And now, for this reason, it would have justified us being this tribute. He would have gotten past it. And I know how appreciative he was of all of you, and how special Pam was in caring for him and probably keeping him alive and keeping him with us for so much longer than we would have otherwise. When I was speaking to Gina before this event, I think she told me I had 2 minutes, actually, by the way. And we laughed because we knew to Harry that would have meant 20. Passionate, articulate, and unscripted, but still 20 minutes. Maria and I had a very special relationship with Harry and with the family. But so probably did half the people in this room. We adored him. And I've struggled with finding the words that can explain the relationship as well as the void that he has left us. As everyone knows, Harry never shied away from a struggle. Marched with Dr. King for civil rights, with Nelson Mandela against apartheid in South Africa, with Cesar Chavez for the rights of farm workers, and Hugo Chavez in Venezuela against poverty and inequality. And not all of these issues and many others that he championed were popular at the time. But in the spirit of his friend John Lewis, Harry could not resist good trouble. He was even brave enough to take on a truly formidable one, the battle of the sexes. First serving as co-chairman for the Women's March in Washington in 2017. In his words, man smart, woman smarter. Politically suggesting that no matter how smart men think they are, women are always a step ahead. Probably an ode to his, he would have agreed with you, probably an ode to his wonderful wife Pam and his dynamic daughters Sherry, Adrienne, and Gina. Sorry, David, but you're in good company. Upon my request, and because of his concern for the millions afflicted with AIDS, with HIV, he agreed to join the board of AMFAR, which I chaired, wanting to fight for drug and treatment access to the underserved populations in the third world. Harry was looking for a crusade, even though I kept reminding him that we were an AIDS research organization. It didn't stop him. He still was looking for a crusade, and I'd continue to remind him. Harry was so damn talented, he won the highly coveted and rarely achieved EGOT, Emmy, a Grammy, an Oscar, and a Tony. He received the Kennedy Center's honors, the National Medal of Arts, and numerous honorary degrees from prestigious institutions. But I reminded him often that he never truly realized his meaningful acclaim until 18 years ago when he made a guest appearance in a Kenneth Cole runway show in New York Fashion Week. He stole the show, obviously, but because he was so damn refined and so extraordinarily, annoyingly elegant, always. Reflecting back, when I used to experience various monumental moments, birthdays, awards, as well as losses, I lost my mother. He was always the first to call. So annoyingly thoughtful. Despite the unidentified caller part, which I'd get past, often leaving melodic and hoarse voicemails, he would ask, "How are you?" and insist that I actually answer the question. He was a better friend than I knew how to be. I was struggling one day, and the solution started with, "Why don't you come over and let's smoke a joint?" His wisdom was often something like, "When life gives you lemons, make a margarita." Harry had the unique ability to find the light as well as the purpose, meaning, and even humor in most anything. I still love laughing with him and sometimes just laughing at his laugh. He admittedly didn't take the world seriously, except when he did. And when he did, he really did. At every stage of his life, on behalf of the underserved and unempowered, he did what he could in a way that only he could. That said, he was disgusted by the treatment of young black men in the criminal justice system, as you heard from Carmen, of how often black individuals encounter loved ones for the first time while incarcerated. The cycle of incarceration, he would say, is real. He was appalled by the subjugation of women and the tolerating and even promoting of violence in the community. He was concerned that the monumental progress that so many had worked so hard for could be lost by and for the benefit of future generations. He believed the young needed to be more engaged and more enraged. The lesson of his mentor, Paul Robeson, to get them to sing your song, remained his driving force and call to action in his fight for social and criminal justice reform until the end. I believe Harry's activism was a choice as well as a calling. He used every platform he had to shine a light on injustice wherever it was, to sing the songs of those who were silenced with the same melody that consistently disrupted the status quo, with an unyielding demand for better for and from us all. Harry leaves behind a chorus of voices, still singing, still fighting, several we have heard from tonight, all of whom are now bearers of his song. In closing, in the words of our dear and inspiring friend and my mentor, daylight come and we want to go home. Harry, you have found your way home, hopefully a place of peace and eternal rest, and God knows you deserve it. I expect one day to laugh with you again about all the shit going on that we are left having to make sense of without you, almost every night and day-o. We love you, Harry.
I made a promise to my wife I would be short, even though we were married here. Harry knew my father, the late, great jazz bassist Bill Lee, and they were the same folk circuit. Odetta, Peter, Paul, and Mary, I mean, everybody. And so I would meet them. We would have a run bumping each other. And he would say to me, every time you have a part in your film for an older man, you give it to Ozzie Davis. And every time you would see me, that's the first thing he would say. You have to give every role to Ozzie, Coach Odom in School Days, and the mayor, and Doing the Right Thing, and Jungle Fever, everything. Ozzie, then, you got Ruby too, so what you want me to do? So finally, timing is everything. And I had a role for him. And this scene was about, he talking about in his younger life, he was witness to a lynching. So he said, I'll do it. But then it got a little shaky. So we didn't know for sure if he was gonna come. So we had somebody's staffs, I don't know if you knew this. We had somebody's staffs just in case. I'm not gonna name them. And I told the crew, wear your Sunday best. They did not know who it was, but I knew that it had to be somebody major if they had to get dressed to the nines. Then my AD said, he's here. And I went to the car and led him into the set. And people lost their mind. I cursed, but I'm not cursing here. And the performance he delivered was amazing. And a couple days after that, I collect stuff, so I had a poster from Carmen Jones, and the inscription was, now I could go to heaven. I've been to Spike Lee joint. I'm gonna close, it has to be sports. He's the GOAT.
Wow, Spike was short. I was there expecting a long one. Hello, everybody. My name is Chuck D. I'll be quick, too. I'd like to thank the Belafonte family. I'd like to thank everybody for even giving me a chance to say a few words. The first was kind of messed up for a bunch of years, because the first time I met somebody who was like a relative of my family that everybody looked up to, everybody in the family. I met Mr. Belafonte when he was 80 years old. And his son David did a speech and messed me up. He said, my father's not 80. He's 4 energetic 20-year-olds in one person. And I was like, well, 20? Well, how am I going to match that? And for about like 25 years, I only got 4 hours sleep a night. He left the world a better place. Understatement, right? If you pay attention to the world. Culture is that thing that unites human beings for our similarities and knocks aside the differences, and is definitely a king at that, and taught us. As a matter of fact,
it makes culture different from government. You know, culture unites human beings, and governments like to split humans up, categorize us, put us in these little boxes. And sitting and having conversations with Mr. B, you know, he gave you the feeling that you was talking to Paul Robeson and all his heroes too. He just transferred that energy like pop locking. Speaking of pop locking, his contribution to hip hop is an understatement. I mean, not only did he overstand it, but also coming from New York, he didn't reject it, he accepted it, he embraced it with the Beat Street movie and the auditions and getting with the people and the young people. And when people was throwing whatever at the music, he was right there as the king that opened the doors. My good brothers Kool Moe Dee and Dougie Fresh are examples that coming from the seed of Harry Belafonte. And the talk about, I mean, you know, everybody in here understands that keeping it real is old slang by now, so you get it. He's as real as they ever had, Mr. B. Also, he didn't want the rapper, MC, or spitter to just be a hollow barker. He is the Black Print. And coming from Long Island, we knew that what Mr. B was doing for hip hop was great. I was a DJ, so everything that came through us, especially from the movie and whatever, and it fell in line with everything that we already had in the crates from Mr. B. He was a total package, the first total package. If you want to say Paul Robeson was the total package, as far as a male concerned, Mr. B is a total package. So you want to hear and talk about anybody in entertainment, movies, records, films, all this and that, nobody was more outstanding than he as an artist and a curator and a culturalist. And he finds the time to bring the noise when it comes down to making human beings and governments accountable to human beings. He's the Black Print. He put the movement to hip-hop rap music as well. Years later, Public Enemy was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And of course, all the rockers were like, well, they're not rock, they're not rock. And I would just say, well, we the roll, baby. And HBO, home box office TV, said they were adamant about having a TV show. So it's not about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, it's about the TV show. And they were always trying to do this thing like, whenever you have somebody inducted, they would have some younger artist induct them. So they would like say, well, Public Enemy, who's gonna induct you? And they had a whole list of names. And after we had our list of names, I said, we want Mr. Belafonte to induct us. And they were hemming and hawing, and we don't do it that way. And some of them were like, had the nerve to say, who? I mean, huh? What is he? You know, like what, Mr. Bell? Okay, but the guy that does the songs from Carmen Jones in the 50s? We say, yeah, you don't bring him, you ain't getting us. Stay my tail home. They called my man, my bro, Spizike. It says, Spizike, help us. Spike says, you know what? Chuck and them said they want Mr. B, I want Mr. B too. Then they went to Spike and said, well, can they both do them together? Because like, we need the star power to bring you in. And Spike says, okay. Now, once you bring Spike and Public Enemy up in the house, it's like, oh, here we go. Mr. B inducted us in, but we was like, it ain't about our induction, who are we? How do we honor our heroes in prime time? Also, they wasn't used to seeing black elders on TV anyway. Even to this day, you don't see black elders on TV. It's always about the sell. How do we pay homage to our heroes? From that, I got involved with his daughter, Gina Belafonte, in the Sankofa, organization, and it's been a treat just to be able to be on call. I mean, it's really simple. Chuck, we need you, holler, I'm there. Woven with the love, peace, and passion of all of our families, my family, moms, dads, kids, brothers, sisters, wives, in-laws, an all-connected family are indebted to Mr. B, his family, and everything else. I was like, well, we go from me to we. And that's what he said, let the me turn into we. And I said, and then we could get involved and really galvanize the movement. He said, Chuck, you are the movement. You are the movement. And at that point, I always knew Mr. B meeting a president. I never met President Obama, but I knew that meeting a president would step down from Mr. B. That's all I had to meet, Mr. B. I mean, I'm not, no disrespect, but I met Mr. B. Last story I got to say, this is real short. Once I said, all right, I could be the movement, and I'm putting in like 12 hours a day, went to Mr. B's house, graced by Mrs. B and Mr. B, and I was like, you know, ever since David said that speech about you being 4 20-year-olds in an 80-year-old body, you know, I've been moving and running, and then he says, Chuck, yeah, you know, you are the movement. It's all right to wake up at 11 a.m. I was like, what? Because sometimes it was like, Mr. B, nah, Mr. B ain't waking up to 12, and that's when you put in the work and you are the movement, then Chuck, you could wake up at 10 a.m. and make all in every walk of life accountable, but be accountable at the same time. Salute, Mr. B. Thank y'all.
I have to tell you that when my phone would ring and I'd pick it up and I'd hear, what? I knew it meant one of two things. I needed to be somewhere, I needed to bring something, and I had to be prepared. The thing that he did mostly in my mind was that he very competently explained to people why they needed to be caring, why it was important, starting with the fact that if I don't care and you don't care, what is there? And he once said to me, why do you do what you do? And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, why do you say the stuff you say? I said, because I think it. And sometimes I just say what's in my mind. And he says, it scare you? I said, yeah. He said, I don't believe you. I said, no, it does. It scares me because I don't want to stop feeling that I have a purpose. That when people disappear and go, it's not going to say to me, okay, well, now I can find a way out. It is hard to stay committed. It is hard to stay committed. You are constantly having to tell people, this is our world. Without us, there is no sense in doing what we do, so we have to get up every day. So I've been in prisons with Harry. I was in Paul Newman's cancer camp singing with Harry. Hole in the bucket. Very little scares me. Very little freaks me out. That was difficult. Because Harry is smiling and I'm thinking, oh, shit. Okay, here I'm now, okay. Dear Liza, and he finally said, what? I said, huh? He said, come here. You see me? I said, yes. He said, follow what I do. do what I do, and then it'll be fine. I said, okay. So we got through it. He got through it. I've never gotten over it. The other thing that I learned from Harry was about children. Because children don't always understand when a big personality is usurped by the world. They don't always get it. And so I realized that adult children and small children don't always know why there isn't the time they want you to give to them. They don't understand saving the world until they get to be older. It is hard to be the child of a megalite. And I just want to say to each and every one of his children, people keep saying, where are the people who are going to lead us? Well, it's starting with you all. You were taught by the best. You were taught that in spite of people's stupidity, we still have to reach out to them and help them walk. We have to keep doing it to people who you don't want to talk to anymore because there's just nothing left to say. But that's not true, because there's never nothing left to say. So I am thrilled to be here. I'm thrilled at all the things that I learned from Harry. Going to Alcatraz, watching inmates graduate. Important, okay, got it. Never left it, still with me. Taking care of the kids at the cancer camps, not just one, the many that he introduced me to. Why? Because he said, here's how you can help. Here's what you can do. Stop cussing at people. It was the one thing he asked that I could not give him. But I'm going to follow the path. He set it out. It's very clear. We'll all go home and remember and think about all of this. But let those moments grab you, those deep, dark moments that say, man, what are you doing? You got to get out and do it. You got to reach out. You got to do something. And know that you do. That you do. That's why he was here. He gave us the roadmap. It is up to each and every one of us to follow it as best we can. You don't have to be Harry, but you have to understand what Harry was trying to give the world. So, thank you, family. Thanks for letting me hang out as family. Because, I'd be up under him. Hi, Harry. And the last thing I'm going to tell you that I want to talk about is the fact that Harry tore down, not just knocked him down, he tore down boundaries on television. He touched Petula Clark and people's heads exploded. Their heads exploded. He touched her. He put out great comedy, great special called Time for Laughter, with some of the greatest humorists on the planet who happen to be black. People lost their minds for this because they'd never seen a whole bunch of black people in one place at one time before on television, apparently. But he shifted that. So every time you see folks of color on television, you remember Harry put them there. Harry did that. believed you. Thanks, Harry.
Try to remember the kind of September when life was slow and oh so mellow. Try to remember the kind of September when grass was green and grain was yellow. Try to remember the kind of September when you were young and callow fellow. Try to remember, and if you remember, then follow.
Try to remember the life was so tender when no one wept except the willow. Try to remember when life was so tender when dreams were kept beside your pillow. Try to remember when life was so tender, when love was an ember about to be low. Try to remember, and if you remember, then follow. Follow.
Deep in December, it's nice to remember, although you know the snow will follow. Deep in December, it's nice to remember without a hurt. The heart is hollow. Deep in December, it's nice to remember the fire of September that made us mellow. Deep in December, our hearts should remember and follow. So it feels unnatural to just sing and not say a few words to send out Grandpa off, so here we go. My name is Amadeus Belafonte. I'm the youngest of Harry's 5 grandchildren. I was 15 when my grandpa passed, and to me, that was a lifetime. My grandpa lived almost 7 times that of my short lifetime, and I, along with Pam, entered in book 7. There was a ginormous life before book 7 that I will truly never know, yet live in my genetics. But what I do know is that my time with him was special, and that my book 7 was filled with him on almost every single page. I might not have experienced sex symbol grandpa, grandpa activist, or red carpet grandpa, but I got to experience grandpa who visited my classes, watched me perform, went to the movies with me, played bingo, and played matches for hours. So I called him Fafa, so did she, which means dad's dad in Danish. Dear Fafa, I love you beyond words, and I have not yet come to terms with the fact that I will never see you again. I think about you each and every day, more times than I can count. You are still such a big part of my life. I carry my heart on my sleeve, or in this case, on my back. On my back. And I'm not afraid to admit that I still sometimes cry rivers 9 months after you left me. I don't know what stage of grief I'm in. I feel like I've visited and revisited the same stages over and over again. Almost like it's waiting for me to finish my chores, my work, my homework, my studying. Right when I think, I'm good. It jumps out like Kato from the Pink Panther movies at the most inconvenient times, which reminds me of the clumper. So maybe it's just you reminding me that you love me and are still here. You meant the world to my family. You were my dad's everything for so many years. I love hearing all the stories from touring, Beach Street, and about the Grammy you both did not win for the Black Anthology of Music. I still smile when thinking about how all 4 of us visited you during COVID in full atom bomb hazmat protection gear, which was my mom's genius idea to get permission to finally come see you.